Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Halftime Oranges. Let's review all the weekend's games. It's time for the roundup. So, straight away, let's go into it. Crystal Palace versus Tottenham, the early kickoff. Now, Dyer was injured after 12 minutes here for Spurs, which is a bit of a disaster. They had to start with Tanganga in central defence, and they started with the new boy Royal on the right. Son was also injured as well, which I did actually say would happen. Props to me in the preview show. But yeah, so they started with Harry Winks came in midfield, and then Dele Alli started up top with Kane and who was the other boy? What's the Brazilian called?
Oh, Lucas Moura.
Lucas Moura. So yeah, it was Palace were pretty much unchanged from their 2-2 victory away at West Ham a couple of weeks back. Palace dominated the game from start to finish. It's also worth noting that they had the new boys Elise and Hughes and Edouard on the bench. Bergwijn was also injured for Spurs, and Lo Celso, Romero and Sanchez weren't allowed to play after they defied Premier League rules to join their international sides. So yeah, Eric Dyer then hobbled off in a collision with Ayew, and Rondon came on, he's been injured himself recently, so he's only just come back. Palace were all over them, especially Zaha on that left side. He's doing a lot of damage. And he created the chance of the half for Gallagher, who, unfortunately, from about 6 yards out, couldn't find a way past Lloris. Kane was pretty much starved of service throughout the whole half. Actually, probably the whole game.
Didn't touch the ball in their penalty box, or didn't have a shot. It's a Harry Kane record, I think.
That's amazing.
Incredible. Yeah. It's the top record of all strikers in any game since Premier League era. No touch in the box, not a single shot at goal. The whole game. Incredible.
So like you just said, they didn't have a single shot in the first half. And I've said that's the second time that's happened in just 6 seasons.
Wow.
Missing Son there, I think.
Definitely.
Well,
I think anyone would, right?
Lo Celso and Brian Hill as well. I mean, there was no creativity. It was quite, watching the game, Kane seemed just frustrated and pushed out wide a lot. I mean, there was no threat for them at all during the whole game.
Just Skip, Højbjerg and Winks in the middle. So it's just the same player.
I mean, it's not exactly, it's not a very exciting midfield with Skip, Højbjerg, Dele Alli back to his, previous Jose Mourinho self. And to be honest, that it was a kind of a Jose Mourinho type performance, to be honest, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. The first flashpoint was when Tanganga, it barged into Zaha, knocked him down, and then it was handbags after that. Both got booked, but then Tanganga, he got another yellow card, which turned to a red after he fouled Ayew. To be fair, though, I thought he tried to move his feet away from that challenge. It was a yellow card. I guess it was a yellow card, not just a free kick. A little bit harsh, but I thought he was trying to pull his leg back.
He was lucky not to go first.
Yeah.
Really. He'd clearly come out in the second half like he'd been bitten by a wasp on his ball sack or something. He was in a foul temper. He wasn't happy for something. Maybe him and Zaha have got previous.
It was Moura, I think. Before that, the ball didn't go out for a challenge on Moura.
That's right.
And I think he was a bit incensed by that.
Okay. Well, I mean,
wound up.
I was wondering if there was some previous between him and Zaha from cage football or something down in Croydon or something. Like they didn't get on from back the old five-a-sides, but it was a proper. You don't see that often in the Premier.
Quite enjoyable, isn't it? Really?
I really enjoyed it. I mean, I thought it was an awful game for the majority of it until we had that little flashpoint. I mean,
like you said, like Tanganga. Obviously, he should have been booked and was rightly booked for the challenge, for the barge. But when he got up, he definitely threw a hand. And I feel like he could have been booked again for that.
The hand was thrown right from the challenge that incensed Zaha. And then he seemed to just square up to him. And it was weird how he kind of was doing it. He seemed like he was trying to provoke a reaction out of Zaha. And he seemed to make a point of keeping his hands down his side and kind of bear hugging Zaha almost, who just didn't want to feel the love, really.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the highlight for me is Edouard. I mean,
well, we'll get to that. So after that, it was Ben Davies who put his hand. I don't know what he was doing. Put his hand out, clear penalty, and Zaha tucked it away.
Well, that was interesting because why is he taking the penalties? because Mihailovic is the penalty taker, right? And I don't think he's ever missed one.
Was
And he was on the
Mihailovic-
pitch.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Captain,
It was
right?
interesting. Maybe Zaha felt he needed that goal.
I mean, it's a
Paul
bit of a
Blanc.
new era, isn't it? You know, I
Well-
mean, I imagine Vieira's probably putting a lot more onus on Zaha to get more goals.
Well, he's been out injured, hasn't he? So maybe they had a little tournament at the beginning of the season to see who would take penalties. Zaha won. But anyway, yeah. And then Zaha again involved, assisted new signing Edouard, Stefan, Brighton.
Was it 28 seconds?
Yeah.
To realise Brighton have made a wrong decision.
Replacing Benteke. And then icing on the cake, Gallagher set up Edouard once again to make it 3-0. Really, really good performance by Crystal Palace. Poor performance by Spurs, even though, you know, a lot of first team players were absent, but still, yeah.
I think
Well
Spurs
done
have
to
been
Crystal Palace.
quite lucky up till now. And then with the sending off and the penalty, it's like all their luck had sort of run out in this game.
Well, I
I know
mean,
what you mean.
bit of a changing of the guard at Crystal Palace, which was really nice to see, I thought. I mean, Benteke and Ayew, they've had a good go at sort of getting by on Premier League seasons, scoring half a dozen goals season in, season out. And, you know, Edouard comes in. And, you know, since 2013, when Crystal Palace managed to get back in the Premier League, the vast majority of Crystal Palace strikers are flattered to see. You've got a
Adebayor,
motley crew of
Tosin.
Listen to this motley crew. This motley crew of Crystal Palace strikers: Dobby, Amiobi, Rome, Chamak, Dwight Gale, Andy Johnson, Simogo, Anderson, Fraser Campbell, Adebayor, Ladapo, Bamford, Wickham, Remy, Benteke, Batshuayi twice, Surloff, Ayew, Tosun, Matata. These until they get to Edouard, who scores within 25 seconds of his debut.
Yeah.
None of that lot scored on their debut for Crystal Palace since 2013. I think they've unearthed a gem, and he only cost them 15 million. And, you know, a lot of people were kind of saying, a lot of Leicester fans were saying, have Leicester bought Daka when they could have got Edouard?
I've got a feeling there'll be a
in the
lot
long
of
run-
clubs. There'll be a lot of clubs this weekend in particular saying the same thing. And I think a lot of fans have been saying the same thing. Would you agree with that, Stefan, of Brighton?
Absolutely.
Who've been looking for a striker for the past three
and
seasons.
we were heavily, like Leicester, we're heavily linked to him.
Yeah.
To the point where it was a case of just agreeing personal terms.
Had it got that far?
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, and that was
Oh,
last summer. But yeah, for Palace, last season out, they got 39 goals. Only Sheffield United got fewer goals in them. So it has been a problem, as you say, Clive. So yeah, I mean, if they can address that issue, all of a sudden, things look really good for Vieira, don't they? It's amazing what a result can do.
You do wonder if that French connection between Edouard and Vieira might have played a part in it at Palace, perhaps.
Maybe. I can imagine a few French players wanting to play for Vieira. I think that's understandable. I do, yeah. But saying that, all three goals they were scored when Palace were down to 10 men. So are we getting overexcited, or do you think Palace have actually turned a corner and can start scoring a few more goals now?
I think they've turned a corner. I mean,
You do think so?
I love Edouard. I wanted him at Leicester, and I've
Yeah.
watched a lot at Celtic. And it's not just the fact that he's played in a piss poor SPL. He's done it on the Champions League and Europa League stage
That's a good point.
quite often. And I think the difference between him and Daka, I think Daka might come good a bit later on, because Rodgers is I think very concerned, not just with Daka, but we had the same with Chendiz, who we signed on loan from Roma last season, where players come from Europe and they're not conditioned muscly and physically for the rough and tumble of the Premier League. You know, Edouard's been taking like studs down the back of ankles and God knows what else. Players
Away at Kilmarnock.
away at Kilmarnock, St Mirren, Ross County. Players who don't give shits and will quite happily pick someone 6 foot up in the air, knowing full well that VAR's not going to catch him out. And, you know, he's dealt with cauldron-like atmospheres at Ibrox and Hearts and Hibernian. He will take to the Premier League like a duck to water, you know. And I am really excited to see how he gets on against Liverpool at the weekend, because that's a real test. You know, like you said, Arran, he did it against the 10-men Tottenham side. But when he came on, he's running off the ball. So I was watching him. He's running off the ball to get into space in the box, waiting for that ball to come in from Zaha.
Quite the opposite of Benteke.
Oh,
He just stands there.
Yeah. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And that is what will set him apart, I think. And I'm really looking forward to seeing if he can up that against obviously a far better Liverpool side.
Yeah, you just mentioned that. Crystal Palace have got Liverpool away next, and Spurs have got Arsenal away, which will be an intriguing game. So,
Spurs without.
All right there, Stefan. You look.
Is it? I don't think it is.
Is it not?
I think Arsenal got Burnley next.
Arsenal got Burnley next.
Oh, you're right. And then
Spurs have got Chelsea,
Yeah,
and then it's the North London derby. Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
I stand corrected, said the man in the orthopedic shoes. All right, Clive. Arsenal against Norwich.
I mean, it kind of really all panned out well for Arteta. I mean, Arteta came out and said it's the best 10, leading up to the game. He said it was the best 10 days he's had with the squad in terms of preparation.
Didn't get beat. Was that what?
Didn't get beat.
Yeah.
But he felt he could work with a lot of the players. I mean, he made a lot of changes to the side. I mean, Ramsdale coming in from Leno, obviously. I mean, we were wondering what his thinking was there, but he's brought him in and got his first clean sheet. I mean, that's a big thing. He got a goal that they needed, albeit a scrappy one. I mean, time will tell with Arsenal. I mean, this result won't define their season. It's very much a work in progress for them, really. I mean, they had something like 30 chances against Norwich. And, I mean, they only converted one, which is all you really need against a side like Norwich. But at least it shows progress. It shows there's a bit of creativity there. And they had a really good go. And I think the crowd, although nervous, stuck with them throughout the game. Norwich. I mean, now Norwich have got, I think, Watford up next. They've got a really good run of fixtures where I think their next 8 for Norwich are kind of winnable, where they're going to have to look at getting some points. If they don't, they're going to end up stranded. I mean, Watford up next, as I said, and then Everton away, Burnley at home. Burnley away, Brighton, and then got Brighton are away to Norwich, and then it's the international break before Norwich have to go Chelsea. The Leeds are a bit of an unknown force, then Brentford, Southampton, and Wolves, Newcastle. So between now and 2nd of December, I think you'll kind of pretty much see if Norwich are going to make a fist of staying in the Premier League, because Pucky's not scored yet. Campbell doesn't look like the player he was. I mean, they've tightened up at the back. I mean, they brought Kabak in as well, haven't they? But it's going to be tough for them, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And, considering the state of that Norwich team, is a 1-0 will, even though it is a win and they desperately needed that win, it's still not a great result, is it, for Arsenal? Even if they did have 30 shots. I know you want to get one over the line. But
he could have done with a statement win, couldn't he? Could have done with a 3-4-0.
Yeah, I still think there's big question marks about him and the team.
Oh, they'll remain to be, you know, unless they get a win against Tottenham, which it will be the be-all and end-all for Arsenal fans, and will buy him probably another few months in the job if he does get a result, because both Tottenham and Arsenal seem in transition a little bit.
Do you think the board at Arsenal are looking at Vieira at Crystal Palace already and thinking about
early days?
I know it's very early, but do you think that conversation has come up? Do you think how happy the fans would react? Let's just say that Vieira does go on now. He's probably not going to win against Liverpool away. I don't know. Maybe they do get a few points. Maybe they do better than expected. Could you see that? Could you see Vieira coming in and Arteta going out before the end of the season?
I could see someone else coming in, not Vieira. Maybe.
Okay. I think I could see it happening personally.
I think Conte's a much more likely appointment at Arsenal if they decide to twist on Arteta. I think Vieira's been backed quite heavily at Palace. He's going to have to show a bit of loyalty there, and he's going to get far more autonomy at Crystal Palace than he's ever going to get at Arsenal. They have a very strange sort of setup in terms of director of football and the scouting system there. I think Vieira's going to get much more say in the players he wants to bring in. There's also, it's an interesting project, isn't it, at Palace? I mean, there's talk of developing the training ground, developing Selhurst Park, which desperately needs it. Exciting, I'd say more exciting times at Palace for Vieira than it will be at Arsenal. What is exciting at Arsenal, and I think what might give Arteta a bit of time is their youth players that they're working with. I think Arteta doesn't just sit back and let his under 23s, under 21s, under 19s, under 18s, and so on sort of just do rule the roost in the youth team games. He goes and watches them. He pays attention as to who's doing what there. And I think Edu kind of echoed that. I think they have got a process in bringing through some of the youth. They've done that already with Smith Rowe and Saka, and I think that's going to be the way forward for Arsenal. They've spent a lot of money now, and you might sort of now see them switch a bit more to bringing some youth through over the next couple of seasons. And Arteta probably is a better manager for that than, say, someone like Conte.
All right, well, time will tell.
Burnley away next for Arsenal, so that might be a test.
And they've got a pretty good record there, though, haven't they?
You wouldn't think so, though, would you? With the way that Burnley play, you'd think Arsenal might have a bit of soft centre there. I don't know. That'll be huge for them if they can get a win there, and then going into that, as you say, that North London derby against a Spurs side that weren't very good this weekend.
Yeah, Sean Dyche and Ian Wonk can invite Arteta around for a sleepover. That'd be nice.
I'll cook you a bit of paella.
Yeah.
All right, Stefan. Brentford and Brighton.
Yeah, good away day for Brighton. Potter went with Welbeck and Maupay as a two up front. And I think now, his third season in the job, we're starting to see maybe what his best 11 or what a Brighton 11 looks like. He gave a debut to Cucurella at left back and he looked lively. Got 70 minutes out of him and he gave a much better balance to that back five. And as I say, when Lamptey comes back, that will be one of the better defences in the league. Brentford had a high press though, and it was very, very difficult early doors for Brighton to play the ball out from the back like they used to. And to be honest, Brentford had the better of the first half exchanges, and Burmo and Tony linking up. And Burmo, I didn't realise how advanced he actually is, and he goes beyond Tony most of the time as well.
Yeah.
Tony had a 30-yard effort.
Bit of a Kane and Son vibe to them.
Yeah. One sits, one goes on. Yeah. Tony had a 30-yard effort where he seemed to see Sanchez off his line, narrowly over the bar. And Burmo got the right side of Duffy, and Duffy had to commit a cynical foul really to stop him from going on and scoring. And then there was an injury to Webster just before the break, and so it sort of forced Potter to blink first, if you like, and we went to a 4-3-3. And then in the second half, we just got better and better. And Bissouma, again, he's in the form of his life at the moment. Lallana dominated the midfield. Then Moda and Alexis came on, and it was looking like a hard-earned point. And then just at the death, a little bit of magic from Leo Trossard, holds off a defender and puts it in the bottom right-hand corner. And that's 3 wins from 4 for Brighton now. And it took till January the 19th last year for us to register 3 wins.
Wow,
so
seriously?
incredible. Yeah, we had so many draws last year.
That's unbelievable.
It
took you until January last year.
It was a long old season last year, yeah. An interesting stat. We've spent more time in the 4 seasons we've been in the Premier League. We've spent more time in the Champions League spots than we have in the relegation zone. We were third on Saturday night, so I was screenshotting that. I think we're 6th now. And we're talking about the lack of a striker and talking maybe we could have got Edouard or these other players or Callum Wilson in windows gone by. But I think what he's trying to do is mould some of these players like Trossard into a more central force. And it could be that we see Trossard becoming, in time, that third striker that Brighton need. I'm just looking at some of our wins. So we've beaten now Watford, Burnley and Brentford. So they're all teams that you'd expect to be in and around Brighton or down at the bottom of the half anyway. And we didn't beat those teams last year. We're outperforming the XG, where last year we were 5th in the XG table. And we're growing into games. And I think at the moment, this is the most faith that Brighton fans are going to show in Potter. It looks really, really promising. And as a fan, you're starting to look forward to the next game,
which is
Leicester next Sunday.
Here we go. That'd be good.
And it might be a good time to play Leicester as well. So,
it's going to be an amazing time. My daughter's due that game, so I'll be watching from the hospital probably.
I thought you were going to say I'm going to have to miss that game.
No, I might get there for the second half.
She's due to give birth.
Half time, please, love.
She's due to give birth around lunchtime on Sunday, so she can watch the game with me. That's the plan. And I was like, how the hell am I going to watch it? It's on free Thai TV. So 3 points there is in the bag for me, as far as I see it. So she's going to come out the nursery. She's going to sit with Daddy. And that is going to be her introduction to the world, how it feels to lose away to Brighton and just get shat on by Morphy and Welbeck. And, the only way we'll be up for her from that day on. What I do like about Brighton, though, is McAllister, how well he's been linking up with Trossard. Them pair have been winning some great performances. And isn't he Argentinian? Because he looks Scottish and sounds
He's
Scottish.
got a Scottish dad.
There we
Ginger
go.
Messi, they call him. Yeah.
Right. So he isn't a full-blown, like, Buenos Aires kind of midfield maestro.
Plays like it.
Right.
So, but yeah, his football development was Argentina. That's where he grew up.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Really interesting. Because he's kind of come a bit out of nowhere, McAllister, and like,
yeah,
he just seems to like put a shift in every game, really, this season so far.
In the Houghton days, we had Gross and Murray, and now there doesn't seem to be a role for Pascal Gross. And the Potter way is these little midfielders that tick attack on the edge of the box with the likes of Trossard and Alexis, as you say. But he tries to use Alexis from the bench more than anything. And I think he prefers now to go with the two. So Welbeck, Maupay, and then one of them in behind. And Jacob Modder as well he was excellent. I spoke about him. I wonder if he might have a bigger role to play in the games ahead. But yeah,
I remember you said in the preview show that you thought that Modder would start instead of Lallana.
No, he went with Lallana. Lallana had a great second half as well. He can play quite deep, Adam Lallana, as well.
Maybe that's an age thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
he must be getting on now. How old is he? 34, 35 now?
It's no age. Yeah. It's 34, Adam Lallana, yeah. It's on a big wage as well, second year of a 3-year contract.
Highest paid player at the club, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's starting to perform, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how many games he can play this year.
Salary.
Exactly, yeah. He didn't play many last year.
All right, Clive. On to your lot, Leicester versus Manchester City.
I mean, if you want to sum up this game in one word for Leicester, it's just pants, really. I mean, we're just being controlled far too much this season. I really struggle a little bit about how Rodgers is thinking about setting up his side attack-wise. He's got to start looking at the new recruits now. I mean, Lookman, Iheanacho, Sumer, Daka. I mean, just to put that into context, 15 games now, Maddison has gone without a goal and an assist. I mean, is he still recovering from a hip injury? I have my doubts. I'm wondering if that move that got called off to Arsenal has affected his form a bit. I mean, because he's not the player that he was. And when he's not on form or not even playing, Vardy doesn't get the service that he needs. I mean, he was put through in the second half to an offside goal. But, I mean, that was pretty much it, apart from the header that Harvey Barnes had that just clipped the top of the crossbar. But, I mean, Maddison only had 24 touches in the whole 90 minutes, and that was the second least after Vardy, to be honest with you. And Leicester just seemed to just get dispossessed of possession far too easily. Tielemans was giving the ball away too cheaply, and if he's not careful, he's going to end up getting dropped. And it's not just that game, overall this season, Maddison's averaged 0.33 chances per game. And to the point where fans were starting, got on his back a bit when he was subbed. There was a double substitution.
Do you think he clashes with Brendan Rodgers?
Potentially. There could be a dispute as to what his preferred role is. I mean, it seems that Rodgers prefers him as a number 10, just behind Vardy up front on his own. And around February time, when Nacho went on his run, that's when they switched to a front two. That also possibly coincided a little bit with Maddison's hip injury. And Rodgers has just decided to go back to that tried and tested formula from the first half of last season, which clearly isn't working. And you do wonder, is it a case of Nacho wasn't fit when he came back from pre-season, as he ran over Rodgers' cat, as he kicked his dog? I would suggest not, because he scored 2 goals for Nigeria in World Cup qualifying, Iheanacho. I mean, Dak has been, I don't know if you've seen it, he scored an absolutely ridiculous bicycle.
He shared it on Twitter. It
was
was amazing. It was spectacular, yeah.
Amazing. And it's like the Europa League match is, I will go as far, we want to do well in Europa League. it comes a second as to how well we won in the Premier League. He's got to chuck in, Daka, Iheanacho, Sumer in this one, make some changes, give him a stage to perform on, and see how they do get on. Because otherwise, there's just going to be unrest growing in the camp, because it's quite obvious that Maddison's not at his game. We played far better with 2 up top last season. The one silver lining is Johnny Evans is back. Vestergaard's building up his fitness. Bertrand's recovered from his bout of COVID. But in all honesty, we were riding our luck throughout that game. It could easily have been 3 or 4 for Man City. And once they took the lead, you just couldn't really see Leicester getting back in it. And it is a very un-Leicester-like performance. And it won't be easy going to Brighton on Sunday.
No.
I mean, they're going to have to seriously up their game. And there will be changes Thursday. And I'm just wondering, Lookman, out of everybody on Saturday, people are like, why are we signing him? Why are we signing him? He nearly scored with his first touch. He had a shot blocked from about 12 yards out. He looked lively. He looked up for it. And you can see why Rodgers has brought him in. And he's got to start wielding the axe sooner rather than later. Leicester's chances of top 4, I think, they haven't got a chance this season. Man City, Chelsea, United have strengthened way beyond what Leicester can compete with. Liverpool just are in their groove, unless they have another massive injury problem like last season. Leicester aren't going to get a shout. So Leicester's aspirations are top 6. And if they want to get into the Champions League, they're going to have to do it through Europa. And this is where these new players have got a stage to kind of shine on, because Napoli's not going to be easy on Thursday night. And matches away at Legia Warsaw and Spartak Moscow are going to be tough, and our season could well sort of not look too pretty come December if he doesn't make these decisions.
When you said that you want Rodgers to make some harsh decisions, what exactly do you want him to do? In terms of personnel or starting 11, what changes would you like to see?
Got to go with 2 up top. Whether that's Daka and Nacho, it's hard to say. I suspect he will probably go with Iheanacho. And quite frankly, Maddison needs to be dropped.
I was just about to say, do you think
is it a question of attitude with Maddison as opposed to ability more than anything?
It's definitely not ability. Definite ability there. It's application of that ability. Yeah. And I suspect if Arsenal have come calling and his agent has said, Arsenal want you, and the club has turned around and said no for whatever reason, is he sulking? Possibly. I mean, if that is the case, then Rodgers needs to assess that and just make a decision on it, because there are players that we've just let Dennis Pratt go to Torino for 15 million, who could also play in that position. There are players at the club now in the likes of Sumer and in the likes of Lookman who can make an impact on that team. And Lookman certainly seemed more up for it than Maddison did, to be honest. So, I mean, it's in Maddison's hands, really. But, I mean, there was a point, weren't we, when we were comparing Maddison and Grealish? I mean,
yeah.
They're just in different leagues now. Maddison wouldn't even, grace polishing Grealish's boots at the moment, because Grealish applies himself. Grealish makes things happen. I mean, I honestly can't think off the top of my head the last time Maddison made a meaningful impact. I'd have to probably go back to last season, 3rd or 4th game where he scored a worldie against Man City away. And I really am struggling to think of anything since then. Obviously he's been injured, but I mean, for me at this level, especially with European football, it's consistency, and he simply hasn't got that.
Any regrets in not selling him?
I mean, there's potential there, So no, I wouldn't go as far to say regrets. I mean, it's got to work both ways for the club. I mean, everyone's got a value, and he's got 2-3 years left on his contract. So I mean, Leicester don't need to sell him. There's no urgent rush. There's every chance. I mean, Arsenal in the end probably went for Odegaard because he was coming in at £30 million cheaper. Leicester weren't going to let Maddison go for anything less than 60, I don't think. Even at 50, I mean, Odegaard's 20 million cheaper, and it's graced the Bernabeu. So I mean, and Arsenal know what they're getting with Odegaard. They had him on loan last season. So I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Leicester denied that any real official bid was made. It's hard to say, but I mean, something is going to have to change in some respect. It may just be a top 2 rather than messing about with the midfield. But Maddison, for me, is on borrowed time. I mean, we'll see how he shows up. I mean, we've got Brighton next in the league after Napoli. So I mean, there's a couple of games, there where
could you see him? Could you foresee him being dropped for the weekend? I mean, we'll do the preview show later this week, but off the top of your head now,
hard to say at the moment. It
Okay.
depends if he plays Thursday, which I don't think he will. I think he'll probably rest him.
All right.
And then he'll play for Brighton, and then a tough decision might have to be made at some point. So wait and see with Maddison. But I mean, he needs to up his game, that's for sure.
But with City, do you think they're starting to get more into a groove now? They had that blip, obviously, in the first game of the season against Spurs. But
what's going to be interesting?
What's interesting is he's not changing that front three, is he? He's going with
Torres
the same players.
His focal point, isn't he?
Yeah.
What I really like about the lack of Pep Roulette this season is
your fantasy team.
That I don't have any Man City players for a start because I just can't dealing with the stress of it. But if I did, I'd have Torres because he's just ideal, as a fantasy league manager. But in terms of a football sort of striker, midfielder playing out of position as a striker, I mean, it seems that what Pep's going to do with him is he's either going to play him 60 minutes, 70 minutes and bring on Sterling. And let's not forget Foden and Kevin De Bruyne has still got to come back. But then, or start with Sterling or Foden or even De Bruyne and then bring him on for 20, 30 minutes. So I don't think you're going to see a situation like we get with Mahrez, where Mahrez will play a game or two and then be rested or drop for 2 or 3 and come on for the last 15, 20 and really spark things up if needed. I think you'll see a natural progression with Foden where I think Pep really rates him. You know,
definitely. I think he said that, didn't he? He's the best player he's ever worked with.
And I think that's probably why they called their interest on Harry Kane a bit, and it's the fact that Torres played for Spain in the internationals and still played a full hour against Leicester in the league, whereas I think most players, I think Pep might have rested him. Champions League is coming up now, though, and I think Man City have got, is it Red Bull Leipzig? I might get shot down for getting that one wrong, but I think it is Red Bull Leipzig they've got, and it's going to be interesting to see how they get on, in rotation, because Pep hasn't had to deal with Champions League yet, really interfering in his preparations. I mean, players are going to get injured as well, so I mean that's going to come into play. As we've said, players are going to come back from injury, so interesting to see. But I think Torres will see more minutes than, say, Jesus and Sterling over the course of the season. Yeah, I think. But Silva as well. I just want to make this point. Bernardo Silva.
We scored, didn't he?
But he was being touted to Tottenham, wasn't he?
Yeah.
As a
deal. Make way for Kane.
As a make way for Kane, and he comes in and he scores. I mean, players just seem to really feel the celebration for me with Bernardo Silva. There was no that talk with Pep. He was over the moon of getting that goal against Leicester. And you do get a sense with Man City that there's a definite privilege of getting in that starting 11 and doing well. So, I mean, there is a good culture at Man City. I don't think you've got any players sulking if they're out of the team for any length of time. I don't think Pep would allow that anyway.
Yeah, I think any team going away to Leicester and getting a victory will be very, very happy. Yeah, very happy. It's a great place to go and get a point. Never mind 3. So yeah, you have to say fair play to City on that one. All right, moving on. Manchester United versus Newcastle. So Ronaldo started. If you haven't heard already, as did Matic and Pogba in central midfield. Sancho was played on the left with Greenwood on the right, and of course, the aforementioned Ronaldo was up top. For Newcastle, Wilson was out because of the injury that sustained in the previous game, so Joe Linton came in. The opening half was pretty much how you would expect it, really. It was all Man United pushing forward, trying to get past Newcastle's low block. But to be fair, they did a really good job of defending. We really couldn't make many clear-cut chances, really. We were firing a few crosses here and there, but nothing really of note. And then with seconds left of the whistle before the end of the first half, Greenwood picked it up on the right side. Looked for a shot, as he does all the time. Deflected off the Newcastle defender. And then, Woodman was off balance. And Ronaldo was there doing exactly exactly what he does, poaching. Probably
anticipated, didn't he?
Anticipated. As soon as Greenwood was lining up to shoot, he was already running towards the keeper just in case what happened. Yeah. And it was 1-0. And that half, like I said, we were huffing and puffing and creating very little. So in a way, it sort of flattered us that to go in at 1-0, to be honest. But then,
I think Woodman.
Go on.
Made sure you didn't. I mean, it was
an error.
Couldn't have put that on a plate anymore.
I know, yeah. But you've got to say well done to Ronaldo in that situation. I mean, Woodman made a big error. He should have done much better, but Ronaldo was there just in case, and that's what you want from a striker, I guess. Exactly what you want. Second half, well, Newcastle scored, didn't they? After it was about 55 minutes in or something. Old slab head, Mr. Sniper's dream, Harry Maguire fell on his ass. And Almiron, who we thought weren't going to play, we weren't sure, but he managed to get into that starting 11. We found out on Friday evening, who then passed it to St. Maximin, and then Manquillo. To be fair to him, he ran the whole length of that pitch, and then finished it very nicely.
That was his first start as well for Newcastle this season for Manquillo. He's normally just bench fodder, but I mean, what a way to kind of crown that off, really. I mean, didn't really see a great deal last season, Manquillo, but I mean, he might be able to hold down the place now.
Yeah, and then after that, Shaw picked up the ball around the halfway line and he drove at the Newcastle defence. Then Ronaldo just set off, blistering pace. Shaw managed to find him. The ball was a little bit behind him. He hooked the ball in front of him and then didn't hit it perfectly, but the ball managed to go underneath the keeper's legs, and it was 2-1. And honestly, quite an emotional goal for a lot of United fans. It really was, because to see he's still capable of something like that, and the fact that we were drawing against Newcastle and he scores a goal, and he was running straight towards the Stretford, and it was an amazing sight, an amazing goal. But then Bruno, don't forget about me. 25 yards out. To be fair, Newcastle just backed off.
I think
anything.
Which is the number one thing you do against Bruno Fernandes.
It gave him enough time to take aim, take sight, and he just absolutely smacked it into the top corner.
Sort of a Ronaldo finish, right?
Sort of in a way, yeah. But you could hear fans cheering for that goal before he even hit it. I think they knew as soon as he lined up and he was given time that was going to fly into the top corner. And then the cherry on the cake of the day, Martial and Lingard came on. Pogba, and Donny van de Beek also.
Yeah,
Pogba to Van de Beek.
Perfect day.
Yeah, and then hit it back to Pogba. Pogba to Martial, who dummied it, and then Lingard, lovely little step, dropped his shoulder and curled it into the top right-hand corner.
So it's Lingard, Pogba, Martial, and Van de Beek all linking for that goal. All the players that there's question marks about, right?
Exactly.
Everyone was kind of saying Lingard wasn't going to get minutes. I think he will get minutes, and I think he'll get minutes in Europe as well.
Yeah, we're actually playing this evening, aren't we? In about 5 hours' time. Yeah, in Switzerland. Yeah. So I think him and Martial, hopefully Van de Beek as well, get the chance to start, but we'll see. But yeah, an amazing day for United fans. Newcastle, not so much. Even though they did get an equalising goal, no threat really, apart from when they could get the ball up to Almiron, who was busy. But
they're missing the goal scorer, aren't they? They're missing Wilson, and they will do.
I don't know. I think more than that, it's their defence that's the issue. More than their attacking players, to be honest.
Central midfield.
Their owner, the manager, the fans' expectations.
Patience is running out, isn't it, on Bruce?
It's gone, I think, hasn't it?
I don't think so. I really don't.
Like
because I just think...
Now. He came out, didn't he, at the end of the game and said there's positives to take from this. And Newcastle fans they've jumped on that.
Well, I mean, he's not, in fairness to Steve Bruce, he's not going to come out and say they're absolute horse shite, is he? You know what I mean? No manager's going to ever say that. I mean, the thing is with Bruce, he doesn't do himself many favours. Because
that's the thing, though, right? If he would have said we were terrible, Newcastle fans would have jumped on that. Whatever he says, whatever he does.
But on the bright side, I've had a great holiday. That's what
this is the other thing, isn't it? I mean, they've picked up on the fact that he went on holiday.
Where did he go? Do we know that?
I mean,
Saga.
I can see him in a caravan somewhere in Great Yarmouth. To be honest with you,
sausages on a barbecue,
phoning up Ian Wone and Dyke, trying to find out where the best shepherd's pie is. I mean, that's probably the Steve Bruce's ideal holiday.
Sounds all right to me, to be honest.
He was incensed. He was incensed when the press got hold of it and were asking him about it, and he was even more incensed in the press conference about the statement that was released about players that they haven't been able to sign. I mean, they were trying to get hold of Hamza Chowdhury from Leicester, who would have been a great signing for them in midfield, to add a bit of bite. And he seemed, very, very, very irked by the fact that the press were asking him questions about the statement, where he felt that it had been addressed, and he probably wanted to focus on the game. But I mean, the Newcastle Chronicle, I think one of the journalists has been banned. I think, he just doesn't say the right things. I don't think, he's got a PR manager there that tells him sort of how to kind of appease the fans. I just think, though, he's not going to get the boot, because I just think Mike Ashley likes the fact that there's a puppet there. There isn't really anyone that will challenge him. He's got a lot of criticism for not really getting into the sports science of it all, like a lot of coaches have. Who's the assistant manager there? Is it not Woodman, the one that's involved at England that came in? Graham Jones. Yeah, that's Jones, it. Yeah. The only thing I could potentially see happening is if Bruce does go, and then Graham Jones gets the job full time as the full time manager, because the players seem to take to him a bit more. Wilson's come out in the past and said, this guy actually has tactics.
What a dig! Well, Steve Bruce is still there.
Well, Matt Ritchie's a law unto himself, isn't he? But I mean, the writing is on the wall that if Bruce does get the bullet, that they'll make an easy appointment. I mean,
Well, John Terry.
Who else is there? Eddie Howe, maybe. But I mean,
the thing is, what decent or half decent manager would want to work there now?
Howe wouldn't fancy that, would he?
Well, he might when Mike Ashley shows him how much he pays him, because he does pay managers very well, and for a reason. So they don't
put up with him.
In a sense, to put up with him, but in a sense, they won't challenge him.
Company men.
That's all that Ashley wants at Newcastle. And I think that is your root cause of all problems at St James's Park. That Ashley will only ever appoint a yes man. Houghton, Pardew, Benitez got to a point with Ashley where he was like, I ain't dealing with this shit anymore. And now you've got Bruce, and I just struggle as to who else would work with Mike Ashley that would be of any decent caliber to keep Newcastle in that league.
The only thing you can say, if a manager goes in there and does shit, it's expected, right? So it's sort of a no lose situation, because if you do well, then you're a hero, and you've got opportunities then to go get into a better job in a way.
But Wilson's
and you won't lose a reputation by doing shit with Newcastle, because everyone expects you to do shit with Newcastle.
Any manager's going to look at that job, and they're going to look at the resources available. Wilson's out for 4 to 6 weeks now. Fraser's out for a period of time as well. You've got St Maximan, Almiron, and Joel Linton up front, and Willock's not knocked on yet. But so I mean, anyone coming in knowing how poorly Ashley backs his managers is going to take one look at that squad and think, F this, because they're going to know within about the space of 5 or 6 games, you're going to have about 50,000 Geordie fans just chucking bottles of piss at the dugout. I mean, it's just who would do it? The only person that would do it is someone in the Championship, an unknown.
It's funny you say that.
Someone from abroad who wants to make the name, and will quite happily take the paycheck and not give a monkeys about what abuse they'll get, because you're not going to get a British manager that's going to put up with it.
Yeah, on Twitter, on the Halftime Oranges Twitter page today, I said, if it's not going to be Bruce, who would you bring in? I didn't actually get an answer. All they said was, if we did get new owners, then we would get. But as to the question now, who would you bring in? Not one person answered.
It was that. It was them saying if there were new owners, Bruce wouldn't be there. And I agree with that. wholeheartedly. Bruce,
I understand that, but if they want Bruce gone, right? Their main objective right now, obviously, they can't get rid of Ashley. They want Bruce gone. So who do you want to bring in? Who can you bring in? They haven't answered. So I would be interested to know. Are there any Newcastle fans listening? Who do you want to get in right now? If you want Bruce out, which I know you do, who do you want to bring in to take control of that squad? And what are the expectations with Ashley at the helm?
Bruce won't get all the time. There's 3 worst teams in the league. Steve Bruce won't get the sack. If you look at Watford, Norwich, and one other, probably. I don't really think he's necessarily under pressure from above, if you like. It's just from the fans.
Yeah.
Just one reply that what did come in when the takeover, the Saudi Arabia takeover was touted.
Yeah.
They were looking at Pochettino and Allegri, and they were doing cartwheels down the street, thinking that Poch would come or Allegri would come, and they probably would have done for the amount of money they were paying. It keeps rearing its head, doesn't it? You know, the Saudi Arabian takeover could be on, it's off again.
I heard someone say Brendan Rodgers as well.
Possibly. I mean, you know, he's a bit of a mercenary in football, Brendan Rodgers. I wouldn't put it past him.
But he's more high profile right now than Newcastle. Do you know what I'm saying? If they are going to keep
Newcastle with money would appeal to any manager. You know, you've got a fan base there of 55,000. You could probably extend that ground a little bit more down one side. You know, there is potential with that club to make it an absolutely footballing hotbed on par with Chelsea.
The Freddie Shepherd Newcastle, right? The ones.
I feel like this is the trouble. There. This is the trouble with Newcastle fans. What you've just spoke about, that dream, is inside Newcastle fans' head right now,
and they can't. Every football fan's
they
head,
can't
surely.
get rid of it. No, but you can deal with what you have now and how to work with it, right? But Newcastle fans can't seem to get that out of their head. So all they're doing is thinking where they should be and where they want to be, rather than looking at what they have right now in Ashley and Bruce and the squad that they have. And all they're doing is putting blame constantly on Steve Bruce. I feel it's a little bit unfair, to be honest.
Oh, well, yes. But I mean,
he's all working with the resources he has, with the objective that he has. He's pretty much nailed it, has he not? Last season, at least. I know this season's been pretty poor so far, but you know, it's only 4 games in.
He's playing in front of 55,000 or whatever it is that St James's Park these days. It is very different to playing in an empty house. You know, Newcastle fans have a certain perception of what football the Newcastle way should be. And to an extent, I think they just always, harp on about the Keegan era. And Bobby Robson spoilt them rotten, as did Rafa Benitez. And they're just not seeing that. And I do kind of understand the frustration.
I completely understand it with the owner.
They're directing
with the owner completely, but what you can't, you go on, finish that sentence.
Sorry, I was just going to say, the one and only hope for Newcastle to turn this around is staying in the Premier League. Getting on Bruce's back and booing him, which will happen if they get battered by Leeds on Friday, is going to end in a one-way ticket to the Championship. The best thing that Newcastle fans can hope for is to back him, even if they don't like him,
I agree.
Back him, stay in the Premier League and pray to God that the Saudis or someone else comes back in and the club is bought out. Graham Jones, who knows what he might bring to the table if Bruce did go. That is the only way I see this going for Newcastle fans. If Bruce is eventually forced out, is Graham Jones steps in. And then, this doesn't end well sometimes when assistant managers step up. Leicester have been there before with the likes of Rob Kelly and Nigel Worthington and players like that. But Shakespeare as well, they stepped up. I think Southampton had it with was it Ian Bramford, who stepped up from assistant to manager. It rarely works, and it's a danger for Newcastle. They go down to the Championship. Mike Ashley's not going to sell, because he's not going to get the money that he can get for the club while it's a Premier League entity. He will wait to get back in the Premier League, and then you're stuck with him again for another year or two.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point, Clive. Yeah.
I mean,
get behind your manager. Is what he's saying.
You need to be praying that you finish 17th this season and someone comes back in for you again.
Optimism.
Friday. Well, I mean, that's where you got to be looking at, Newcastle fans. You know, to hell with the style of football that's going to get served up under Bruce. You know what you're going to get with him. It's not going to look pretty, but it only has to look fourth worst pretty. You know, it's a case of all you got to be is an ugly duckling this season, and just hope that fortunes change regarding Mike Ashley.
Yeah, you mentioned there that Newcastle played Leeds at St James's on Friday, and United have got an away game to West Ham. So, two interesting games, really. Two underperforming teams and two teams who are doing really well at the moment.
Because Ben Rama got hooked, didn't he? We'll come to that in a minute. But I mean, Antonio's also banned for that one.
Yep.
So looking like a possible.
Before we move on to Southampton, I would like to re-say what Peter Drury said as Ronaldo was coming out of the tunnel. Madeira, Manchester, Madrid, Turin, and Manchester again. Wreathed in red, restored to this great gallery of the game. A walking work of art, vintage, beyond valuation, beyond forgery or imitation. 18 years since that trembling teenager of touch and tease first tiptoed onto this storied stage. Now, in his immaculate maturity, CR7 reunited. Poetry.
Is that because I said Shakespeare before?
I want Peter Drury at my daughter's christening. That would be ideal.
If you're listening, Peter.
50 quid. I'm willing to really go very high for you there.
Yeah, all right. An amazing weekend for United fans. Absolute dream world stuff. Let's move on to a boring 0-0.
Let's
keep it short.
Southampton, West Ham.
It's me, I think.
So, lucky you.
Last on match of the day, Moyes came out and said that the players looked like they'd been away on international duty. And a lot of these games.
I think he was right about that as well.
Yeah, not wrong. I mean, you got that one spot on. Yeah.
But if you look around the games that happened at Saturday 3 p.m.s especially, there was no goals, was there? Until Ronaldo. Was it Ronaldo the first goal?
Ronaldo got the first in about injury time.
Yeah, the first half.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
He's got a point there, Moyes, I think. Hasenhuttl mixed it up a little bit. He went with a 4-1-4-1, pushing Ward-Prowse a bit higher up the pitch, which stopped the attack of West Ham down the flanks. But then there was no real urgency from Saints in attack. Best chance of the game maybe went to Ogbonna. And Brojo came on for the Saints on loan from Chelsea. He looked pretty lively. But the biggest talking point was probably the sending off of Mikel Antonio. He's had an up and down week, isn't he? Because he went away with Jamaica, made his debut, had a bit of a poor fixture there, lost 3-0. And then he was player of the month. And then the day after he gets a double yellow. So it's a curse, isn't it, the day before? For Saints, that was their first clean sheet, though, in 14 games. And I don't know if I think West Ham would have maybe been expected to win this one. They went with quite a strong lineup, and now they're going to be missing Antonio for, as you say, for Man United. So will it be Krasic? Will it be Yarmolenko? Will he go with Bowen up top? I'm not sure. Another draw for Southampton. That's 3 out of 4 draws since that opening day defeat at Everton. And apparently that waistcoat, that sort of a bloke at a summer wedding, that's a deal. That is a superstition, apparently. So he's doing
right.
Yeah, I didn't realise that. But yeah, so I imagine if he's going to change it every time they lose, he's going to have a few outfits in the wardrobe. But yeah, a boring old game, this one. Not too much to add on this one.
You mentioned about West Ham have got to be careful here a little bit. They've got Europa League coming up. I mean, if this whole quarantine business finally gets sorted out, which it might do, I think FIFA and various other bodies are speaking with the government about how they can let their players release. I think this was the big thing about why Brazil did relent and let the players play at the weekend, is because I think there is an understanding that something will be done for the October qualifiers. I mean, the red list is going to be announced soon, but Jamaica are away in the USA, home to Canada, and then they are away to Honduras, and this is all before then Antonio will have to obviously return, and then 2 days later they're going to face a difficult match in the Premier League. I mean, is it a case of it's a long journey transatlantic for Antonio? I mean, was he tired? Did that agitate him a little bit? I mean, Everton away after playing those 3 games, West Ham's season could just simply come a bit unravelled by the fact that there's going to be a lot of travelling by a lot of players, Mikel Antonio being one of them, and it's going to happen again in November. And can his body and mentally, can he deal with it all? I mean,
it's probably one of the worst.
Who can come in for him?
One of the worst things that's happened to West Ham, hasn't it? The fact that Antonio has decided to play for Jamaica instead of waiting for England.
On the bench in
you
England,
can't fault him for it.
Exactly.
Can't fault him for it. He's not going to get in that England side. I mean, he might get in the squad. I mean, it didn't do Chilwell a great deal of good sitting on the bench.
He should get right now. He would get in the England squad, I think.
He's in front of month, isn't he?
In front of Bamford. Would you not agree with that?
Yeah, he would have had a shout to play against Andorra, I'd say. So,
yeah, but
I mean, he's versatile as well, isn't he?
You've said it there. He'd get a shout against Andorra. Is he going to get a shout against Argentina in the quarterfinals of the World Cup? Probably not.
No, but is it not better to be part of that squad than playing week in, week out? Well, every now and again for Jamaica and not getting anywhere. It's a toss-up, is it not?
It's probably his only chance of. I mean, unless Jamaica do get invited into the Copa America, which does happen. I think
really?
He just wants
that happens.
It has happened. They've played in the Copa America. They've been invited. The Cotton Bowl try and boost the numbers. I think Qatar and Australia were due to play as invitational because otherwise you've not got enough teams.
Right,
so they try and bump it up a bit. So Qatar and Australia were supposed to play in the last one, but obviously because of COVID they had to withdraw. So they do get invited. Mexico have been invited into it before. I think Spain have been invited into Copa America before, just to boost the numbers up. You know, it's a toll on any player who's not used to it at the age of 31.
Yeah,
getting back so late on a Thursday, probably not really training on the Friday much at all, and then expecting to play a game away. I mean, time will tell with Antonio. I mean, has he got the minerals to cope with a World Cup qualifying campaign, Europa League and Premier League, and then how does Moyes kind of shield him when he needs to be?
They've got no direct replacement for him, have they? So
Krasic, is he a direct
replacement? Bowen can deputise as a striker if needed, but I mean,
it's not a light for light though, is it really?
No. And Ben Rama, as I said, was a bit mediocre. So there we go.
Yeah.
I mean,
as for Saints though, you got to say after the opening game, they performed so much better. I know they still haven't won, but definitely you can see the progress that's been made, especially having James Ward-Prowse back. I think that's made a big difference for the whole team. Give him
Livramento as well.
Yeah.
Won a lot of fans with his performances. So I mean, you know
do we know who Saints have got next? Does anyone know?
Got,
because that could be an intriguing game because they're obviously still looking for that first victory.
City away.
Okay, then.
In a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you never know. All right.
I think we do.
All right, well, then let's move on then. Watford against Wolves. Wolves were coming into this game without a point to their name. And Watford...
Goal.
Yeah, a goal as well. And Watford lost their last two. In the end, it was semi-simple victory, I guess, for Wolves. Watford only really threatened once. Sarah Sissoko connected, I think, around the 15-minute mark, with Sissoko testing the goalie from the edge of the box. King almost connected as well to another Sarr assist, but couldn't take that opportunity. The chance of the half fell to Semedo, who just hit his shot straight at Bachmann, who was in goal from a tight angle. So it was 0-0 going into half time. And I guess most fans were thinking of the same, especially Wolves fans were thinking the same. We're not going to score again today. But finally, I think it was on around the 70-minute mark. Marcel, low cross, and Ciaralta, who was only picked to play on Friday evening, put it into his own goal.
Great header. Really. It's like an Andy Myers.
Could be an own goal of the month.
He just picked his spot, didn't he, and put it away. But we were saying, weren't we, that
West Ham
need a bit of luck.
West Ham could do it with him, I think, up front. Antonio's injured.
We were talking about Jimenez and Trincao and the lack of goals, right? And maybe they just need a bit of luck to go in. And that's sort of what happened in this game.
Yeah, and then with 7 minutes to go, I think it was Marcel again who hit the woodwork, should have scored. But then the new boy, Wang, was able to find the back of the net to seal all 3 points
That was a
Watford,
scrappy goal.
It
as well.
was a
That
scrappy goal, yeah.
Might have been
It
a
was
scrappy goal, but if you'd listened to the Korean commentary for that,
I
you'd
heard
never
that.
have thought so. They went
Oh,
berserk.
really? I need to check that one out.
Oh, honestly, it was like all their Christmas at once.
Fair play.
It was insane. Find it on YouTube because I mean, there's one thing you can say about Korean players. I mean, they're probably a bit used to Son doing it, but I mean, when Wang scored that, what turned out to be the absolute winner for Wolves, I mean, they were just perplexed with joy, you know. So I mean, yeah, fair play to them in Korea for enjoying every moment of that.
Yeah, so now Watford, 3 losses on the bounce after that great opening game against Aston Villa.
Yeah.
And they actually had 10 straight, I'm just reading, they had 10 straight home games of wins. Sorry. Yeah. Dating back from last season to this season.
Championship, yeah.
Yeah, and that's over now. Written down here, Wolves still overall pretty poor in front of goal, but what a relief to not only score but get a victory as well. And to be honest, some of their play in the last 2 games, they've actually deserved a win. So yeah.
Well, there was a lot of plaudits for the way that I forget the manager's name now, but the new Portuguese Lager. Yeah, the way he's set them up with 2 up top when Wang came on next to Jimenez. You know, and
it has to be noted. It has to be noted as well that Traore was again probably man of the match in that game.
I
mean, another outstanding game, but in front of goal, rubbish.
Well, they've got a good run of fixtures now to try and get some goals in. Really, I mean, they've got Brentford at home Saturday, Southampton, Newcastle before the international break. Southampton away, Newcastle home. So I mean, you know, the goals will probably start flowing now. And their XG has been great. I mean, and you know, hopefully, Wang's Korean adulation continues.
Moving on, late kickoff on Saturday, Clive, was Chelsea and Aston Villa.
I mean, Chelsea are looking at a definite force to be reckoned with, and you know, you look at players that sometimes don't always start, don't always sort of see light of day with Chelsea, and the way that Tuchel like kind of rotates his squad, but with sort of reason as well. And you know, Trevor Chalobah and Kovacic really kind of put in a decent shift for them. I will say that Reece James is definitely the better player. Obviously, he was suspended for this one, but you know, Chalobah's an able deputy, and Kovacic puts in a great performance. I mean, the writing was kind. I mean, Villa didn't play that bad. They created chances, but you know, the writing was kind of on the wall for them when Lukaku got put through early on in the first half. And another highlight for me was Rudiger's shot that ended up in Ken Bates' hotel behind the shed. But I mean, Chelsea may well have done. I mean, Chelsea Villa made it a bit too easy for them, to be honest with you. I mean, what a goal from Lukaku at the end. I mean, it's going to be a close one between Lukaku and Ronaldo for Golden Boot, to be honest with you.
Salah not in there? I mean, we'll come to him soon.
The only reason I wouldn't put Salah in there is he's going to miss
the African
Cup of Nations. He's going to miss a good. I mean, Egypt could well go far in that tournament, and he could end up missing about 2-3 weeks of important matches. Although FA Cup will be in there, so not too disastrous for Liverpool. But I mean, for the Golden Boot, I mean, Kane won it last season, did he not? So, and he's not looking at all for. I mean, Lukaku's my favourite Golden Boot this season, and that third goal just epitomises, you know, what he's capable of. It's not just his way he dispatches goals, you know. I mean, his hold-up play, the way he plays with his back to goal now, he's got a whole new dimension. And when you've got a midfield of Mount, Ziyech, Pulisic when he's fit, Kovacic, Kante, who you can just chest the ball, knock it down, play it off to, running it into space. I mean, they've got the nucleus of a perfect supporting cast for Lukaku. It also Alonso's seeing an extended run in the team. It was very interesting. We were speaking about Antonio's Jamaican commitments. I mean, Tuchel's come out and not been very complimentary for how Gareth Southgate treated Chilwell during the Euros. I mean, he felt that Chilwell not playing a single minute of football in the Euros, you know, affected him quite badly mentally, which is why Alonso's been holding down a place in the team. And, you know, he feels that Chilwell's only just got back to a good headspace where he can now consider picking him for the first team. It is kind of interesting sort of how the trials and tribulations of international football can weigh on players' minds and affect their club form. So, I mean, they've done all this without probably one of the best left backs, certainly English left backs in the league as well. So, I mean, for me, I think golden boot for Lukaku and probably the league for Chelsea this season.
Lukaku touched the ball 25 times in this game and scored 2 goals. It just shows you how clinical he is.
It mixed it.
Ronaldo had one chance against Newcastle and scored 2. So, but yeah, I have to say that ball from Kovacic for the first goal, amazing! What a great assist! Didn't even know he had that in him, to be honest. The new boy, was it Niguez? He had
Terrible.
an absolute mess, didn't he?
Yeah, Tuchel apologised, didn't he? After he felt he just dropped him straight in where he hadn't really had a chance to sort of get up to speed with the Chelsea squad in training because everyone's been away on international duty and, perhaps a bit of a schoolboy error. But I mean, so was Ming's horrendous defending and that kind of let him off the hook with that performance. I mean, Thiago struggled, didn't he? Remember when Thiago came in?
His debut was awful
struggled.
now. And now he looks accomplished, isn't he? Yeah, one of the better players.
I think after Chelsea did score that first goal, I thought Villa did have a few hard chances to get back in the game and Mendy played a blinder in net for Chelsea.
I don't think Chelsea were that great, really. But that's the mark of champions.
They didn't have to be that great.
When
they got their second goal, they were just knocking it around. The old lays were going around about I mean,
they are a machine, very machine-like, aren't they?
They just look complete in every way, but they're going to need to be, and they're going to need to have this depth because I've just realised they've got that club. What's it when you win the Champions League?
Which isn't going to be in Japan
Cup
anymore.
No, it's going to maybe South Africa. They're talking about. Really? People are putting a bid in, for it. So they're going to need this squad depth, aren't they?
They've got it though. They've got
exactly, yeah. They look complete in every. Was there a weakness in the Chelsea team in any position?
That's a good question.
Was Man City, you might say a striker. Man United, you'd say defensive midfield.
Yeah.
Liverpool,
I don't.
Depth
I don't think they have. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think in terms of squad depth, they're better than anyone.
I was to be real critical. I mean, is there an adequate strike partner for Lukaku?
Or a replacement because Timo
Werner came on. I forget for who, but he partnered Lukaku up front. I mean, are they ever going to be on the same wavelength with them pair? I'm not sure. That is the only, if you're chasing a game, is it always, in my opinion, to go with a front 2 rather than with a number 10 sort of behind Lukaku, like how Mount might end up playing. I mean, Mount didn't even feature in this one. They didn't even need him. That might be my only, red flag for this Chelsea squad. Is Werner a capable strike partner for Lukaku when needed?
All right. Well, anyway, a great victory for Chelsea.
Yeah,
they motor on. I mean, they've only dropped points at Liverpool away with 10 men, which pretty much sums up how well they're playing right now. All right, moving on to Leeds versus Liverpool. Firpo started for Leeds and Rafinha did as well. So we weren't sure if those two would be able to play, but they did. And the same for Alisson and Fabinho for Liverpool, because we were thinking if Alisson can't play, then we weren't sure what keeper they were going to bring in. There was talks of Kelleher, wasn't there? The young Irish boy. But anyway, yeah, Alisson and Fabinho started for Liverpool. A frantic, fast-paced start to the game that almost saw Leeds go up after about 6 minutes. Was it I think a Rodrigo strike after great play from Rafinha. But after that, it was pretty much all Liverpool. Jota tested Meslier with a looping effort, but it was then Salah who opened the scoring after 20 minutes. Matip, the architect, gave it to Trent, who then does what he does. Beautiful assist for him. 100 goals for Salah in the Premier League. He is the 5th fastest player to reach 100 goals in the Premier League. Boys, can you name the other 4?
Shearer,
124 appearances, 100 Premier League goals.
Aguero?
Yeah.
Which one?
Sorry, Shearer, 124 appearances. It took him to get 100 goals.
Vardy's might be in there.
Sorry again? What did you say? Vardy's not there.
Isn't he?
Aguero. Did you say
Aguero is 3rd on the list. 147 appearances.
In right.
Van Nistelrooy.
Van Nistelrooy's not there.
Ian Wright.
Ian Wright is not there.
Wow.
One currently plays in the Premier League. Kane, 141 appearances to reach 100 goals. A legend of the game is missing right now. I think he was inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame. No, not Ronaldo.
Henry,
160 appearances to reach 100 goals. So, yeah, Salah was just behind him on 162 appearances. Leeds were pretty lucky just to be 1-0 down, to be honest, by half-time. Liverpool were all over them. They also had a disallowed goal. Thiago heading it. Another Trent cross.
Yeah.
And then in the second half, I've got to say as well, Liverpool are unbeaten in their last 91 games.
Wow.
Is that away from home? Anyway, yeah, 80. No, that can't be right. Unbeaten in their last 91 games. Oh, when leading by half-time. Sorry about that.
All right, I'll take that.
I was like, 82 victories and 9 draws. More of the same pretty much in the second half. But then it was Fabinho who managed to get onto a Virgil van Dijk header from a corner, and he put it away. And then the disaster of the game, Harvey Elliott, after I wouldn't say a crunching tackle, but an abrasive tackle, I say.
I mean, it's the whole reason why FIFA years ago ruled out the tackle from behind. You know, because even if it's not intentional, there is a certain amount of weight that can then land on the back of the player's leg and do what it did. You know, I mean, harsh. I mean, Sturrock.
Was it a red card? Probably not.
Apparently, the ref was always going to send him off, and in the melee, VAR were just like, "Hey, you know, you do know that's a red card offence." The ref came out at the end of the game and said he always had the intention to send him off because it was a tackle from behind, and you do wonder if the injury kind of forced that, because I mean, you know, we've seen worse than that, and no red cards. I mean, big loss for Liverpool, and hopefully really Harvey Elliott,
18-year-old,
gets better. Yeah,
dude, done really well to break into that Liverpool side, and you know, for starting in that 11 is pretty amazing for an 18-year-old. So yeah, we wish him well. Henderson came on for Elliott, and also Dan James made his debut, came on for Harrison. A lot of missed opportunities, especially for Mane for Liverpool. They were all over Leeds by this point, but he didn't give up and eventually bagged to make it 3-0. Great day for Leeds fans. Great day for Liverpool fans. Very, very sad though for Harvey Elliott. That would have took a real big shine off the game and the 3 points.
It's a dislocation, though, isn't it? It's not a break.
I'm not sure. I haven't.
It's a dislocation. I mean,
it still requires. Of course, it still requires surgery, though, and he'll be out for a long period of time. So, I don't know if that
had exactly the same injury. Fofana's had exactly the same injury, and he's up walking in rehabilitation now. I mean, it might not. This is a bit later, though, is it? I mean, Fofana might sort of make a bit of a recovery by January, February. They're kind of estimating. So, I mean.
But you would assume he's out for the season.
Yeah.
You may see him around April, May, depending on how Liverpool are doing.
There's no need to rush him back either, right? At 18 years of age.
I mean,
I would assume.
Leeds didn't look great.
Leeds
did not look good at all. I mean, the only decent chances they had, right, was when the only time he did it all game was when Rafinha did actually cut inside and squared it to Rodrigo and hit it straight at Alisson.
Yep.
The support that Bamford gets is second to none. I mean, it's there's nothing there for him. I mean, all the chances that Bamford create are from his own endeavour of tracking back and hard work, and it just showed to me the sheer frustration he must be feeling when 2-0 down. He just belts it from the halfway line and has Alisson backpedaling. I mean, they're in deep trouble, not just creating chances for Bamford to put away, but which might help when Daniel James starts, because maybe that'll free up Rafinha a bit more, who just seemed glued to the sidelines. But they've got two 18-year-olds that are probably one of the two 18-year-olds, Drama or Cresswell, unless Koch makes a dramatic return from injury, who are going to partner Cooper against Newcastle Friday night. And their defence just does not look good at all. Llorente's out again by the look of it. Fleur Pro's still finding his feet. Yeah,
They're conceding.
Not
They're
convinced by
conceding a
Leeds.
lot of goals. Conceding
Oh,
a lot of goals. It seems to be very easy for teams to break them down.
They've got issues with set pieces as well. They concede a lot from there.
Yeah, you've got Bielsa murder ball, and not the strongest of squads, not the deepest of squads, should I say?
Yeah.
And is that starting to take its toll? I mean, they won't go down, but I think the Leeds fans might be a bit disappointed.
No, yeah, they were talking like pre-season about how this is going to be an amazing year for Leeds, a real turning point. They're going to push on, and so far it's been
second season syndrome wasn't a thing with Leeds, right?
Yeah, well,
I don't know. They go man for man. They play the same way in every game. So he's got Plan A, and then if Plan A doesn't work, Plan B is do Plan A better, if you like.
Yeah.
You know,
if they don't get a victory against Newcastle, is it panic stations?
I think it's the polar opposite of the way that Newcastle fans feel towards Steve Bruce.
It's so
Right.
true. So true. Yeah.
He's got so much credit in the bank, Bielsa, for what he's done.
Yeah.
It'll be a long time before they turn on him.
No, for sure. Yeah.
They've got West Ham at home after that, and I think they've also got Watford at home as well. And
those are a good 3 games. I think
they're a good 3
get some
games
points,
to turn
yeah.
it around. I mean, Watford's away form's shocking, really, and West Ham are a bit up and down at the moment, and then they're away to Southampton, home to Wolves, and then away at Norwich. So I mean, you talk about credit in the bank. I mean, there's at least 3 wins from those 6 games there, I think, for Leeds. So I mean, although they don't look great, they'll churn out a few results that sort of see them out of the bottom 3 or any threat to the bottom 3. Do you
think that it's one of those? I know it's probably goes with second season syndrome, but the fact that they performed so well last season that teams are taking a different approach now, and they've figured out how to break them down,
isn't it?
And Leeds haven't changed.
Yeah, and they haven't.
Could
really,
be.
Have they? They haven't really strengthened. And but then again, they played. Who have they been beaten by? They've been beaten by Man United and Liverpool, and they've got points at Everton and Burnley, which might age well as the season goes on. I just think it's expectations, isn't it? As we said before, we had such a good first season that it is hard to maintain that level in the second season, especially when you haven't strengthened and you've got a lot of injuries in one area at centre back. I don't think there's anything to worry about for Leeds fans at the moment.
All right, then. Final game of the weekend was last night's fixture, Everton and Burnley, Stefan.
Yeah. So Rafa went with 3 centre-backs, actually, to start this one, to negate the threat of Burnley, obviously, that aerial threat.
I was like, definitely going to play 4-4-2.
We put 4-4-2 Derby out the window.
Know, right?
So, went with Michael Keane, Mina and Godfrey. And it's actually Burnley that had the better first half and actually broke the deadlock early in the second half from a Ben Mee header after some confusion really within the Everton defence, a few of them out of position. And it was a very typical Burnley goal, sort of Burnley goal you'd expect them to score. And then Rafa made a change. He brought Gomez on and they went for a 4-3-3. And it straight away, there was such a better balance to the team. Decore asserted himself. He's been fantastic the first couple of games, especially against Brighton last week. Looked very versatile. And then it's just 6 minutes of madness for Burnley. So they switch off. Townsend puts a ball in. He was excellent, by the way, from deep. And Michael Keane scores a great header. And a few minutes later, Andros Townsend, certainly not a great goal scorer, but a scorer of great goals. That was his first one in 36 games.
What a goal.
Wonder strike, yeah. And then 2 minutes later, we spoke about Damari Gray. He goes and makes it 3. Then Everton are well in control. And that's 3 wins from 4 now for Everton on 10 points. And the signings that he's brought in, so it's Townsend and Gray, basically what you'd say unfashionable mid-table midfielders are looking like much better, really good acquisitions to that squad. And then they've come from behind again. So it happened at Southampton on the opening day. And they come from behind again to win 3-1 at Goodison. There was a debut as well for Solomon Rondon.
Came on with 10 minutes.
Yeah. And with DCL out for another couple of weeks, you imagine he might get a bit
Is that confirmed now, Calvert-Lewin?
So it was a groin injury and then a toe injury, I think. So it's
I heard
whammy.
eye injury, but I mean, they've not really put a date on it.
Could be as well.
Could be as well. Just one point about that great goal. Decore's pass split that Burnley defence in two. I mean, what a ball! And he had a goal talked off for offside after that as well. I mean, he was proper getting about, bossing at midfield. 2 assists and a disallowed goal. I mean, Doucouré's really on form at the moment for Everton as well.
Yeah, and tough start for Burnley now. It's only 1 point from a possible 12. And they've just had these moments in games where they switch off. It happened against Brighton for 10 minutes, and it's happened here, and it's cost them. So I wonder if that tactics board will be wheeled out in the living room tonight.
Could be. Yeah.
And most importantly, we talked about corners. Do you know how many corners there were in this game?
How many corners or crosses?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, crosses, not corners.
I'm going to guess with 15.
Oh,
from both teams.
Oh, from both teams. Oh, bloody hell. 25.
We were 30.
39.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that a record? Is that a record?
I don't think so. It wasn't mentioned, but yeah.
Okay. As expected.
And a pretty impressive knee slide by Damari Gray. I mean, like, this weekend has shown the best and the worst. I mean, Lukaku deserved booking for his effort. It's, pretty happy with Fernandez's. Fernandez wins the knee slide award for me this weekend. Wasn't particularly impressed with Lingard. He turned into a bit of a stock car trying to do a bit of coasting, didn't he, with his turning? But Damari Gray, he's got knee slide skills.
Well, he had a bad one, didn't he? Away at Leeds, was it?
He did. He's made up for it with that one. Yeah, sugar glider like.
Is there like a golden knee slide that all players need to aspire to?
You're going to be doing well to match Giroud's knee slide and rifle celebration. Up to about row M in the Emirates. I mean, there's certain. You mean groundsmen also have a part to play in this?
Yeah, they do. If you're listening, groundsmen, more
clearly
water.
At Stamford Bridge, we're not watering the corner that Lukaku went to. So there's work to be done between the strikers and the people who water the pitch at Stamford Bridge. But yeah, I mean, it's a dying art, I think, and people need to start taking it more seriously.
All right. Well, if there's anything to take away from this podcast, it's definitely that. All right, boys and girls. All right, boys, shall we end it?
Lovely. Yeah.
All right.
It's been great.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on around Thursday or Friday time for the preview show. Take care and
cheers,
bye-bye.
guys.
See ya.